the Northwest Valley WordPress Meetup is happening on Tuesday, the 28th of this month, which is the 4th Tuesday. The month started on Wednesday, so it threw us all off. But we're meeting at Elevate Coffee Company. We start at 6:30, and we're talking images from beginning to working with them in WordPress.
Cool. Anybody else? I don't know what the topic next month in Meetup is going to be. But on the 4th of November, the first Tuesday in November, there will be another Business of Web Meetup at Cahoots in downtown Phoenix. I cannot speak at all today. And that's a fun group. If you are a professional web designer or developer and you work with clients on client projects, then it's a great place to brainstorm and you know, kind of get some support from. Yeah, if you want to be too. Wannabes are welcome. Okay, and a month from tonight, our next meetup here in this room, the main topic is going to actually be it's going to be event management with WordPress. We're going to live stream a demo of the event calendar, which is a plugin by Modern Tribe. And we are also going to we're going to continue our hosting series with a demo of from a member of the Pagely team, which they've been hard to nail down. So I'm excited that they finally agreed to the date. Okay, that's it. Any other announcements?
Yeah, WordCamp Phoenix has an organizer now.
Yay.
She's like, Bonnie couldn't make it, but she would be the person to reach out to. There's a WordPress Phoenix Facebook group that I've seen her posting in, and I saw she posted in a couple of meetups. So feel free to reach out if you were interested in helping, have any ideas, all of the above.
If you wouldn't mind posting the link to that Facebook group on the meetup, on this meetup's page, that would be awesome. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah. Oh, would you like to introduce yourself? On the spot. Awesome. Welcome. Okay, we're going to switch around just a little bit. Just to give you guys a little bit of background, we have been using this room, this amazing space for this meetup for a year and a half now at no cost to us, which is really great, and we really appreciate Axosoft letting us use this space every month. And so when the founder of Axosoft, Hamid, emailed me a few weeks ago, asking if we could suggest some places for them to promote their new WordPress plugin for their pure chat service, I was like, we gave some suggestions, and I said, why don't you have someone come to the meetup group and demo it for everybody? So I'm really excited to have Ariel here tonight. She's going to give us a demo of the pure chat plugin, which is, well, she'll tell you.
Yeah, I'll tell you all about it.
Are you going to hook up here?
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I didn't invite you to the Hangout, though, so it won't be part of the video.
Well, coincidentally, I'm videotaping it, so maybe I'll send it to you.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, sorry, broadcast people. You'll just have to listen. And
All right, well, I'll trade you in. In the meantime, I brought these little info cards so you can have the URL for the plugin page, so if you want to talk with that, that's free as well.
Nothing bad will happen if I unplug here, right?
No.
Except for that.
Okay, so where am I plugging in? Just so I
You
know.
can plug in anywhere with any of these devices that you want to.
Yeah, she finished it.
Okay.
Okay guys, so hi, my name is Ariel Hurst and I'm from Pure Chat. As Betsy said, we work right here out of the office, so it was a very short commute for me to get here. And I assumed that when you saw us on the agenda, you all would have tons of burning questions, so I tried to anticipate the top 4 and answer them for you now about our free live chat plugin for WordPress. So question number 1 is, what is live chat? Is it just that annoying thing that pops up on some websites? Well, in some cases, yes, it is, but When done properly, actually live chat is a great way for businesses to connect with their online customers instantaneously. In PureChat's case, that basically means that a little box shows up in the corner of your website screen, and when customers choose to interact with that, a pop-up shows up that basically travels around with them on the site as they talk with you. So say you're saying, oh, go to another product page, they can click around and the experience is seamless. So they don't get interrupted as they're navigating around the site. Portfolio page, absolutely no issues. The conversation can continue. The second question is, why is this important? Why is it so important for people to be able to connect with you instantly online? Well, the fact is it's because your online customers want to connect with you instantly. 44% of online consumers say that having questions answered by a live person during their online purchase is one of the most important features a website can offer. And that makes a lot of sense because no one likes sitting on the phone for 15 minutes listening to elevator music while they wait for an operator. And there are plenty of questions that customers have that they don't feel like sending an email to talk to you about. So this sort of breaks down those barriers. If I just want to know, hey, has this come back in stock yet? I can get that answer in 30 seconds, which is really great for me and really good for you because that pushes me through the sales funnel even more quickly. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, yeah, I would love to connect with customers all the time. That sounds really great, but it also sounds like a pain in the ass because I don't want to be chained to my desktop 24/7. I don't want to be getting customer requests at 2 in the morning. I don't have time for that. Well, that's totally fair, and that's why we created iOS, Android, and Kindle apps, so you can connect with customers from anywhere. So let's say you're at the grocery store and someone chats with you. You'll get a notification on your phone, just like you would for a text message, and you can chat right back with that customer instantaneously. Another really convenient feature is if you don't want to be getting those 2 a.m. messages, you can have a scheduler on your iPhone app that says, hey, I only want to be available from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and we can set that up for you. Now, the last point is, I'm hoping that all of this has intrigued you, so you're wondering, how do I get started with this awesome product? Well, I'm going to show you right now. It only takes 3 minutes to get set up with PureChat on your site and have everything up and going. So I'm going to start from the point of the dashboard, but if you were to go to the URL of our plugin page, you would install the plugin and then activate it from here. Okay, cool. So once it's activated, you're going to get a PureChat sidebar icon right over here. Click on that, and then say pick a widget. Now, if you're a new PureChat user, of course, you're going to create an account. That's what I'll do right now. Name, let's do WP Test 1. Company, PureChat, of course. All right. Cool. So that's all it took for me to have a widget on my WordPress site. This is actually fully active right now with the default plugin on my WordPress site. However, I want to customize it. So what I would do is go over to your PureChat dashboard, X out of this box right here, go to chat widgets, and then edit the default. Now, let's say my website is about puppies. I love puppies, and I want people to chat with me about all the puppies. So chat with me about puppies. I can change the title. I can also change the image over here. So let's see. All right. I want to add a puppy to my chat widget to reinforce that message, and I want it to be really big so people will know that there's a chat bubble here.
Oh my.
Now, all I'm going to do is hit save. I know, I love it too. Okay, go over to my dashboard, visit the site, and you can do this for clients, for your own site. It's totally free the plugin is totally free, and the service is free for up to 30 chats a month, with which most people don't ever hit that limit anyway, and you can have as many operators as you want. So with that being said, do you guys have any questions about it?
30 chats per month per account or
Per account.
per account? What happens if you don't?
It's $5 per operator, which is still the lowest compared to all the other ones out there. We're definitely trying to undercut everybody, so it's a smoking deal.
Email and transcript.
Yes, you can. So if you were to do a chat at the end, you can download a transcript, and then our software, if you are on the operator dashboard, keeps all of your transcripts for you. And you can also, as well, at the end of a chat, if you want people to maybe say you have a software and want to sign up for the software, you can include a link button that says, hey, sign up for our service now, and the link in the chat will take you directly to the sign up page.
What is the operator?
Here, I'll show you. Okay, so actually, I'll start a chat with myself real quick. So, Ariel. Okay, so I got a desktop notification because I have desktop notifications set up. And over here it says new incoming chat. So what I would do, go over here and select it. And I can respond to myself. And basically, on the far right panel, it shows where I'm located. Our IP address is out of Colorado. So it's not 100% accurate. It's more for language purposes. And I can do all that. There are also canned responses that you can create. We also have an awesome graphic designer who created our own emojis for us. So you can add those as well if you want. There's lots of fun stuff. And also all the text on the widget, I forgot to mention this, is customizable. So say you correspond with a lot of people who speak other languages, you can change all the widget text to be in Spanish or Portuguese or whatever it is that you need. Does anyone else have any questions? All right, cool. And, oh, one more.
I just wanted to mention to you that you might want to ask people to do a review of it. That way people can review, to get good reviews and more people.
Yeah, that's a great point. If any of you want to use it and write a review, that would be awesome. Our apps are very highly rated in the App Store, by the way, so just as another motivating factor.
Another couple of questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so your operators,
Mhm.
they need to be logged in. They need to be logged in order to receive a chat.
They need to be set as available. So they can be set as available from their desktop or from their phone.
Okay. Does this have its own backend or is this part of the WordPress backend?
This has its own. So this is operating out of our own dashboard area. We may change that in the future so you can operate it out of WordPress. They just wouldn't approve it because it had to be in an iframe. All of those of you that are familiar with that.
I actually like this because I could see a use case where we might have a site and we wouldn't want to give people a lot of logins to our WordPress backend, but we'd want them to be available as chat agents.
Yeah.
So this is nice that it's a separate dashboard.
Well, that's good to know then. Maybe we won't change it.
or keep it as an option.
Yeah, that's a good point as well.
Because if you give people a login to your WordPress backend, then you've got to do extra things to, manage what they can and can't have access to.
Right. So that's a good point.
Are there any user experience analytics, like length of chats or?
Yes, there's length of chat. So the reporting is basically a daily email that you can opt for that tells you how long it took each operator to respond to a chat, how many missed chats they had, how long they were available, basically all of that good stuff. And there are a few other stats in there as well.
So like an administrator could get that email.
Right, and I think it only gets sent to the administrator.
That's good.
Yeah. I think that pretty much covers it. And you can put different widgets on different pages if you want, so that way if you want it to only go to salespeople, you can do that.
Is that the chat software website? Is that the one that you just telling me you built?
Pure Chat?
Yeah.
Oh, this is not what I built.
What did you build?
This is what I built. This is my WordPress site, so I'm somewhat qualified to be here. I built this very recently, but no, I wish this was my craftsmanship, but not quite that talented yet. So, anything else? All right, guys, cool. Thank you for letting me speak about this.
Okay. Did April walk in the last 2 minutes? Whenever can give me a hangout call. So, you guys, the opportunity to come in and talk for 10 minutes is really open to just about everybody in this room. We really welcome and want participation, community participation. If there's a plugin that you built or just a plugin that you like, that you use, or that you did something cool with on a site that you're working on, those exposure to all these different to sites that everybody's working on is what I think is useful, and that's what we come here for. So please don't be afraid to get up and share what you've learned. Just let me know, let Seth know that you've got something that that you're interested in sharing, or that you just want to share and not sure what you want to talk about. We'll help you come up with something. So we are, okay, we're going to try to pull in, since our next local speaker has not run in the door yet. I'm going to see if I can pull in our third speaker, which is Rick from Flywheel. He's going to do our hosting series. And join it.
Your speaker is here.
April's here.
I'm here.
Oh, well, April. Yeah. Perfect timing. Come on up. Everybody, this is April Holly. Can you present? Sure. Okay. We got the broadcast.
Only if I
on.
can keep my super secret passwords on.
You can definitely keep your super secret passwords in my LastPass.
How's Alaska?
Good.
Are you living there still these days?
Yeah, I'm going out this week.
What are you doing this week? You're for like
It's kind of beautiful. Come on out.
Trust me, I live here.
You're really supposed to be presenting that.
I know.
What's that?
You're really supposed to be presenting
Yeah, well, she's like,
Okay.
got
So,
the fizz on.
do you? Let me get
I just need a browser, sweetheart.
This is a browser.
Just give me a browser.
Here you go, babe.
Sweet.
All right, and you are on broadcast in the screen. Oh, let's share the screen now.
Yeah.
How are you, Brandy?
Good, April. How are you?
Wow.
Is that share screen?
Yeah. That's the button.
We want to share.
Can you scroll down and get like all windows?
Well, you want this screen, not.
Oh yeah, but if I can, don't worry about it.
Yeah, you want this.
Just
This will be this
you
whole
tab.
screen.
Good enough.
So that should do it. There we go.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yay!
Hello, everybody.
Having so much fun today. But come on now. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, me, you.
Oh yeah. No, okay. Hey everybody. Sorry, I was like, I need to get to where I'm going first. My name's April Holly. I'm late. Sorry. Busy day these days. I don't know about you guys, but business has been picking up, so that's. In any case, Betsy asked me. She was like, "You can give a talk," and I was like, "Yes, I can." And so she wanted me to present on one of the plugins that I really like, and I really like Editorial Calendar. And it's a really simple, like, free plugin for my clients that kind of need something to like keep track of what's going on with their blog, that kind of thing. I do a lot of promotional marketing for nonprofits and like socially conscious businesses, and one of the strategies that we use for SEO is to continuously blog because Google likes that, and we like to be helpful. So it's all about kind of coming together with a plan as far as what you want to be doing all the time and keeping it consistent. And a lot of these blogs that I help maintain are built by 1 to probably 4 people at any given time. And so it's really helpful to kind of keep track of what's going on with the editorial calendar to make those decisions. Who's writing this week? What's going on? I lost my head over there, like all kinds of things going on, right? How many of you guys use a regular editorial calendar, or how many of you guys are just kind of like shooting from the hip? So editorial calendars? All right. Shooting from the hip calendars? All right. It's a free plugin. You're a click to, like a real push to click. All right. We're committed. Like clicking. Not really. My fingers aren't working well today, actually. It's not your keyboard. Keyboard's fine. Hey. I like this. Alright, let's see if I can remember my username and password. Ah, no. Haha, not again.
How many login attempts do you
A bunch, actually.
have? Somebody in the room can brute force it for you.
Yeah, can someone just handle that for me? Yay! All right. Don't mind my horribly not backed up site. No. No thanks. Dude, yeah, you too busy updating other things for other people. You cobbler's shoes? Anybody got some cobbler shoes right now? Be like, man, I wish I could have updated that website like a long time ago. But anyways, let's go to my plugins and see if I even have this installed for myself. That would be the real test of whether I like this thing or not. Being serious about these clicks. No, really. It's like, wait for it.
Surround into space. Vladimir.
No, it lets you go now.
Wow. Vladimir, come on.
You like that?
Don't remind me later.
Hey, I love that plugin. I'll rate it later, but not this moment. Not this moment. All right. Let's see if I have it installed. Yes, I do have it installed. Yay! If you guys needed a refresher on the install process, basically you would click Add New. You would go and you would search for Editorial Calendar in the awesome new look and feel that plugins has these days. Yeah, I like the icons. I'm really digging the icons. And then you would just, hey, I could update it if I wanted to. But basically just install and then you're good to go. But what this does is once you've installed it, it gives you another little menu item under posts, and it actually does it for all custom post types. So if you wanted to schedule out portfolio items, etc., you could totally do that. So let's look at what this fancy thing does. It's not that fancy, but it is pretty fancy. All right. So if I use this thing, it would be filled up, but it's not. So let's pretend like I need to fill it out, right? Okay. So Wednesday, I want to post a new post. Gee, guys, what should I write about?
You should write about the editorial calendar plugin.
But what this does, once you've installed it, and you have post, and it actually does it. Listen, I'm not. I never claimed to be an expert. Okay.
Again, let me reiterate that everyone is welcome.
Anyone
You
at
do
all.
not have to be an experienced or a good speller.
Or a good speller. That's why spell check was invented.
Right?
So Wednesday, I want to post a new post.
Not so good.
Right? Okay, so I've got my general overall topic. I put some bullet points down here to remember, hey, this is what I want to talk about when I talk about this thing. And you can actually set it to automatically post. Either you can set it to a draft status, so if it's not, done yet, it won't go live. Oops. Or you can be totally risky or like challenge yourself and just schedule it and just be like, all right, that thing's going out on 10 a.m. I better have something in there, right? Which is actually pretty helpful as a motivator. It's silly but true. But a lot of the times what I do
Hey everyone, if you can hear me, I actually muted you guys, and apparently you have to unmute yourself at the top of the screen. Otherwise, I can't hear you guys.
Okay, I am no longer muted. I can see you. I can hear you. I'm going to pull you over to the screen so everyone else can see you. And there you go. Now, if I turn, do I have to turn this around for you to see everybody else? No.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So I need to turn my thing back on. Camera. And now. Okay. I don't know. It's not. Can you see us?
I cannot see. I see myself.
Click stop screen sharing.
That would be it.
Yeah, stop screen share. There you go.
Oh.
Yeah. There it is.
Now, we asked again. There. Okay. All right. Hi, I'm Betsy, and
Hi,
that's
Betsy.
everybody. Wigglies. Okay.
This is cool.
You're not going to see everybody the whole time, though. I'm going to
That's all right.
just leave it like that.
All right, so should I go?
Yeah.
Cool. First of all, thanks, Betsy, for having me. I appreciate it. How many people in the room?
Uh-oh, she broke it.
Oh no.
She didn't.
Okay, you're.
Click break again.
Yeah.
You there?
Yeah, we just lost you, though. We lost your video.
Huh.
You're back.
I'm back?
Yeah. Go. Start over.
All right. Cool. I was going to ask, has anyone in the room actually heard of Flywheel?
Yeah.
All right, that's cool. Anyway, so I'm one of the co-founders at Flywheel. Real quick, we're a managed WordPress hosting company. So really, we're a hosting company that focuses only on WordPress. And what that means to us is basically trying to abstract all the complexities away that go into hosting a very fast and secure WordPress site. So we handle the performance through caching and some other performance tuning on the server side, as well as security, things like limiting login attempts, protecting the site from brute force attacks, as well as nightly malware scans. We partner with Security, which you might be familiar with. And each site on Flywheel is scanned each site by our partner Security, and if we detect any malware infections, we clean that stuff up for free, which is kind of the baseline of what we do. We actually get really excited about the software side of things, so focusing on things like how to make it easy for designers and developers to build and manage their WordPress sites, or how to easily collaborate with teammates or contractors and that kind of thing. As well as cool features like staging sites and one-click restore backups. So real quick before I start any demo, do you have any questions before I get into it?
What do you do for Flywheel?
I do all of our marketing, actually, and all of our design. So I'm a designer here, a user experience designer.
And how big is the company now?
Sorry?
How big is the company? How many people?
200. No, I'm kidding. We're actually, I think we're 16 people now.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so we started about 2 years ago actually, and we had a private beta last year, starting in July, and we launched the public a year ago this month. So really, this summer for us was a lot of building out the product. We raised a fundraising round earlier this summer, $1.2 million. Which is our seed round. So since then, it's just been kind of building the features our customers have been asking for a long time. We kind of have a lot the capital to really invest in it now. So, any other questions? Okay. How many people have actually used Flywheel before?
Like 30 people raise their hands.
How many people?
We've got about 3.
All right, cool. You guys are my favorite. All right, so I'll just kind of step through it. You guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so if I log into my Flywheel account, this is kind of what I see. What I'm looking at are sites or sites I have access to. So I can kind of sort on these. I can look at kind of who's collaborating on the site with me. And this is the owner of the project on the left side, and then I'm there as well. I could search on sites. We have this concept around demo sites, so we allow people to launch sites on Flywheel for free. You get a temporary domain you can build on our servers, use it as kind of your demo server for your client to show off your new project. And then really you only pay us or have to pay us when you go live, and you have the option of either paying for it yourself or transferring billing to a client. So I actually just look at some demo sites that I have available. I launched one earlier tonight, but I'll actually just jump into creating a new site and kind of show you how it works.
Can you zoom in at all on your?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that helps.
All right, that is big on my side. Works for me though. All right. So this is basically WordPress information. So I'm going to launch a new site on Flywheel. It's the standard stuff that you guys are probably all used to. WordPress information like username and password. Like I said, each site on Flywheel comes with a temporary domain, so you don't actually have to have a domain registered or bought. And we'll start this one up at azwp.flywheelsites.com. As I scroll down, the last few options are really just about how you're going to pay for the site. So as I said, we have a few options. You can pay, yourself. You can pay for the site now personally, or if your client's going to pay for it later, you can actually just launch a free demo site, which I can do that. We actually have a third option, which we launched earlier this month, or actually late last month, which is what we call bulk plans. These are really reseller plans for designers and developers that resell hosting. Basically, this thing allows you to buy packages of sites for a little cheaper price per site, which basically means hopefully you can make your margins a little better. So we have 10 sites for $100, 25 sites for $250. But I'll actually create a new demo site. So I'll just say my client's going to pay for this site later, and I'll launch a demo site on Flywheel. I always say this is where we're trying to hypnotize you, and someday we'll add the button where it just says like buy more stuff about 10 seconds in. But really, this just take a few seconds, and then the site will be up here. I'll be able to show you kind of the dashboard. If you have any questions in the meantime, I'm willing to answer.
you tell us about that migration feature that it lists?
Say that again?
It says migrate your existing WordPress site to Flywheel for free.
How does that?
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we do provide. We know that migrating sites from server to server is a pain, especially if you're want to try out a new service like Flywheel. A lot of it's kind of a barrier of how do I get the site over there, and it's really just oftentimes not worth your time. So we actually do free migrations. So we've done honestly thousands of migrations. Our support team is really great at it, and you can actually just submit a migration. I'll actually show you that form here in a minute as well. If you wanted us to move a site, we'll do it for you for free. So the site's available on azwp.flywheelsites.com. If I actually visit the domain, it's going to pop up this password thing. Every site on Flywheel is password protected by default. The password information is down here. Username is Flywheel. We generate a password for you. You can change it yourself. So if you wanted to change it to something your client could use, or you could just use this. But if I log into the site with those credentials, I can also use my Flywheel username and password here, by the way. But there is a public one for your clients. As you can imagine, it's a stock WordPress install. It's all set up and ready to go. It's also in your FTP account. So each account on Flywheel comes with an SFTP account where all of your sites live. And what's cool about that is that your sites live there whether you own the site or you're collaborating on it. So we have this concept around collaborators where I can just add people to the list of collaborators, and I'll actually have my partner here. He'll get an invite right now and be like, what is Rick doing? But what it means is he'll get an email saying, hey, you have access to the site, and he can log into his Flywheel account, and it'll be listed in his dashboard, as well as his SFTP account. If he logs in there, he'll see my name, and inside that directory will be this new site, so he can work on it with me. I can also remove him at any time, and what that means is basically he no longer has access on the Flywheel side or the FTP account, which again is great for contractors. If you work with them and they don't need access anymore, you can just pull back and remove them from the project when you're done. So this is kind of the overview. At the top of the page, it tells you there's 14 days left. Our demo sites do have expiration periods. These are on production boxes. They're actually using resources, so you can get a real feel for how the site's going to perform when it goes live. By default, they have 14 days. You'll get a couple emails as those days get closer to expiring. And we don't mind pushing the expiration date out. You can just email the support team and we'll push it out for you. Really all we care about is it ends up being on Flywheel. But if you were testing something out and you didn't need the box anymore, it will expire if you don't let us know. And that's kind of the overview. I mean, if I move on to the other few tabs here, our add-ons tab is basically additional features that you can add on to your site. Things like SSL support. Our content delivery network that we just manage for you, and Multisite. All these things are $10 a month. In the future, we'll be adding a lot of different integrations and things that will live here. Some will be paid, some will be free. But right now, these are the three that we do offer. So a lot of people ask, the Multisite is a big question. For Flywheel, you can run a Multisite on Flywheel for on our personal plan, which is $30 a month plus a $10 add-on. So $40 a month will allow you to run a Multisite on Flywheel if you wanted to. Otherwise, you can have CDN. We install it, we configure it for you, so it's really just kind of hands off, and it's $10 a month. Each night we back up the site for you. So there's nightly backups. We hold those backups for 30 days, and they all live here on this page. I haven't obviously backed the site up yet, but I could create a new backup on the fly at any time. And if I create a backup, it'll just back the site up. So if I'm making lots of changes, and I wanted to back the site up before doing that, I could do that just in case I break things. And we do allow you to just click a button to restore a backup. And it really only takes a few seconds to back the site up, but I won't wait any longer.
Can I ask a question about backups?
Yeah, what was that?
Does it back up everything on the site? Does it back up all of the entire uploads folder? Does it back up everything?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so it's a full backup. It's a database and a file backup, and we back up everything. Basically, anything you have in your root that isn't Flywheel related. So obviously we don't allow you to modify the core files, but if you have things in the root, it'll back those up. The WP content directory is fully backed up, and the SQL file will be backed up. So when you restore a backup, if I just restore this, I'm restoring everything. What's nice about our backups is it does tell you kind of as things change. So if you add a post or a page, you can kind of see where the last backup really matters, right? So you can restore the correct one. So I obviously don't have a ton going on this site, but it is kind of a visual queue on that. Any other questions on backups? Okay. The advanced tab are what we consider a little more advanced features. A lot of people don't dive too deep into WordPress, and they might just be tweaking themes and that kind of thing. But if you wanted a little more functionality, you can go to the advanced tab. We do things like you can allow flush the cache manually. So if you're doing lots of code pushes and the cache is stuck, as they say, you can flush it to clear any of the file caches. And then things like WordPress debug, we can just turn that on with a click instead of adding it to your functions file. Also, we do have staging sites. This is actually a beta feature. But basically what this does is clone your site to a full staging version. So if you have a live site and it's just been live for months, you can create a staging version, make changes to it, then push to production. And if I do that, I'll kind of show you how it works. I have to remember my password. So if I do that, it pops up a new tab here called Staging. If I go there, it's actually just setting up the staging environment right now, so it's working. But what it'll do is actually create a URL called staging.azwp.flywheelsites.com. It's a full copy of your site, and then any changes I make there don't affect my live site. And then actually we have a few buttons here that allow you to push those changes back to production when you're ready to go. What's cool about that again is you can make changes without having to worry about breaking code. And I'll let it. There it goes. So now we have a full staging version that lives at staging.azwp.flywheelsites.com. This domain would stay this way even if you pointed a live domain to your WordPress site on Flywheel. If I visit this, I'm going to prompt that password again. I don't remember what it was. It's down here. I log in. Again, not that exciting right now because it's just this base theme. But in my FTP account again, I'd actually have a staging-azwp directory, which is a full copy again. Any file changes I make there, I can actually just push to production. And if it says move staging changes to live site, I click that button. I could optionally copy the database if I want to. A lot of times you're just making theme changes and you'd rather not move the database to production. But if I was making database changes, I could do that and then just confirm it. And then I move the changes to the live site. And that'll just push things for you. So that's how our staging is. Again, this is in beta right now. We actually just have been releasing it to some users. But in the next probably 2 weeks, we'll be rolling this out to all users on Flywheel. That was on the advanced tab. That's right. Get back there. Any questions so far? I know I'm talking fast. Good? Okay. As well on the advanced tab are this right column, which is basically your WordPress version. So this is running 4.0. If you're running, if you have an older version of WordPress, as the new version comes out, we update WordPress for you. It's actually a manual process. It's not automated. And what that means is we run the automated upgrade, but we actually have a diff checker that makes sure the site didn't break, and all of our support agents actually walk through your site to make sure nothing did break. And if it looks good, then it's good to go. If we notice there's any issues, if a plugin's out of date and it's causing the site to, not function correctly, we will a lot of times, fix the problem. A lot of times we can just update the plugin for you, or whatever the case is. But if it's something a little more difficult or challenging, we'll actually just roll it back to the previous version and let you know what the problem was. So our goal is to really just not ever have the site break, and we'll go the extra mile to make sure that's not the case. But we do manage those upgrades for you. When a point release comes out, which is mostly security related, we do roll those out same day. And the major releases, they're mostly cosmetic or additional features that actually do cause things to break when you upgrade. We give you about 2 weeks. We'll shoot you an email and let you know that we're going to upgrade your site. That allows you to test things if you wanted to, or you can actually come to this tab and upgrade it yourself immediately. And down here's your database. You have full access to your database if you needed to. If you can just manage the database here. We actually don't use PHPMyAdmin. This is kind of Flywheel's version of that. It's fully functional. It has the ability to run SQL queries, import SQL files, do everything you might need to do. And get back to the advanced tab. So that's kind of the advanced stuff that kind of under the hood a little bit. The last tab here is the billing, and all this really is the history of the site. And obviously I haven't paid for the site yet, so that's obviously kind of boring. But coming back to the main overview tab, I mentioned the billing kind of features that we have. If I wanted to go live with this site, I'd want to turn this password off, and it's going to prompt me to to complete billing. So you can't actually turn the password off until you pay for the site. So I'll actually just go through the billing process to kind of show you how it works. If I click that button, or if I come up here and do it, it's the same thing. It's going to ask me whether or not, again, I'm paying or if I'm going to transfer it to my client. Remember, I created a demo site, so this is a free site. I'm just going to say I'm going to transfer it to my client, and again, I'll transfer it to my partner. And I can actually choose the plan for my client. So what's great about that is a lot of times your client doesn't actually necessarily know what they need. They really lean on you anyways. So if you actually have the idea of what they actually require for the site, then you can just choose it for them. It removes the step for them, makes the experience even better. Also add-ons, if you know they need multi-site, if you know they need SSL support, you can check those for them. And last, you just kind of add a little personal note. Then I can just send it off to him, and he gets an email. So you can imagine your client gets an email asking them to pay for the site. It comes from you. It's wrapped up in an email from Flywheel, though, and it really just says, hey, your personal message, can you please pay for the site? There's a big, complete billing button. And what's cool about it is that they just sign up for their own Flywheel account. So if it's a demo site and they go through the complete billing process, they create their account, they pay for the site, they become owner of the site, but you maintain access to the site as a collaborator. So you'll actually be on this collaborator list, and they'll be the owner now. So the site will just show up in your dashboard, all that good stuff. If you had a falling out with your client, you could actually remove yourself from the collaborator list pretty easily. So that's kind of how the demo site works. Again, we do offer bulk plans too. So if you wanted to actually resell hosting, you can do that, and I can just add sites to my bulk plan. But this is one option. So. And honestly, that's kind of Flywheel in a nutshell. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and we think that it's pretty easy to use. But if you have any questions, you can fire them off if you'd like. Anything?
Anybody in the room used Flywheel? Anybody have?
Yes, I have. I've used it a couple times, and it was very helpful. I had a client that wanted to move off of Meetup because the performance was really. So they did a free migration for us to the teaching area while the old site was still public. Then we got a new theme, a responsive theme. They did their magic and made it a live site. I mean, we had to do some DNS points and stuff, but it worked very slick. Awesome.
Your client's happy with it?
Yes.
Good. For a testimonial.
What was that?
We just had a testimonial in-house.
Oh, great. Awesome. That's fantastic.
Helpful some of their clients.
Who's that? They win a t-shirt. How about that? I was going to say that if I was going to show you the migration form. So what we do is you go to the migration form, and it's pretty straightforward. So it allows you to pick the type of migration. We have lots of migrations in WP Engine. So if you are out in WP Engine, you want to move over, we have a form for that. Otherwise, it's just standard migrations from anywhere on the web. Zip upload as well. So if you had a local site that you wanted us to migrate for you, you could just zip it up and upload it, and we'll migrate it for you, and also WordPress.com. So it's really a seamless process. This falls into our migration queue, and our support guys kind of help you out. And we can get migrations turned around usually within 24 hours, so it's a pretty fast process as well. And again, this is all free. We only ask you to pay for the hosting once the site is migrated to the servers. And really, if you wanted to test things out, we can drop it into your account as a demo site, and you can play with it before paying as well. Not a problem.
Do you guys have automated processes for that migration, or is this really done by hand?
It's I'd say it's 50% automated, and then the other 50% is manual. So we do have, we've written plugins to allow us to kind of back the site up on your server, but actually getting it in place and making sure everything functions is done by our support team. So it's automated to the extent of basically as far as we want to go to make sure that the quality is good.
Questions? Okay. Great. Great presentation. Is there anything else you want to finish off with?
No, but I will. I'll show you. Is that Betsy speaking?
Yes.
I created a discount code for all of you. It's 3 months free. So on our Tiny plan, and I'll shoot you an email, Betsy, with it. It's just, I think it's AZWP 2014. If you guys can remember that. But if you sign up for a site and use that code, it's 3 months free on the Tiny plan. It's monthly, but you could also use it on the annual subscription and get 3 months off too. So.
Great. Are you comfortable with me putting that in the comments on the Meetup page?
Yeah. So just so you guys all know, it expires January 1st. So I'm cool with that. Not a problem.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Thanks a lot for having me. If you guys have any other questions, let Betsy know later, and she can email me.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good one, guys.
Now what do I do? Yeah, let's do that. It's too far.
I don't know if you made this clear, but if you have a client that you want to do like sort of a mock-up, or you're trying to sign them and get us to do hosting and stuff.
Uh-oh.
You know, you can do it for free for 4 weeks.
Sure.
And then the client can take over the billing.
That is nice.
And they'll, post it, they'll move it to national or
Because we all know how long a client can stay in stage.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody need a potty break or stretch your legs? It's the 7th inning stretch, and then we're going to do our WordPress multi-site panel discussion. So go ahead, stretch your legs, and then if you're on the panel, come up and take a seat.
So I don't get to stretch my legs.
And then
Oh,
and then come up and take a seat.
Decision time.
Yeah.
That's scary.
I've seen it too.
Are you also? Yeah, you all are up there. So I'll move front row. Here.
Okay. Oh yeah, we're gonna switch to Brandy's so we can see the panel.
Yeah, I need to send him that. Yeah. I was thinking about just invoicing this. There's no way I can do that.
Do I need to go off screen share?
You need to click on me and then
Oh, yeah. Just
Yeah,
because you also have everything.
Stop screen sharing. Click on Brandy.
No, you mute yours, and I'll.
Maybe
I muted my
tilt the
microphone.
camera
Should
so
I
you're
not?
seeing the screen.
I should keep my microphone muted. Right?
You get this the hookup.
What?
I have my microphone muted in
And-
here and the volume muted.
Yes.
So I'm all muted.
You're muted,
The
and
microphone on yours is on?
Yep.
And there's only time, and all I
Okay.
want to say is get already.
Just
So
kidding.
we should.
Which one do you get?
yeah,
I think
it's not
if you
right.
just search GIF keyboard, it's like the top one. And
I'm
what you do is you
thinking I might just plug it in
So
just to
you're
be
good, and you
safe.
just tap it,
I
and then
shouldn't run out of battery, but
It's amazing. Yeah, this seems to work really well.
Let me over here.
hangout time.
Are you?
3 seconds.
3 seconds.
Oh,
Someone's got it.
I'll make it.
Here to defend it.
Exactly. Once he gets in here.
Aw, walk in front of it.
Is that what they're gonna see? Make sure nobody can see it in my skirt.
Yeah, we're live.
This is live, yeah. I appreciate it.
All your adjustments now.
Yeah. Chris. Sure.
Hey, don't stretch.
I think I checked in the Phoenix last year.
Yay.
I have a weird visual memory. You checked the we're taking Phoenix. That was one of these
Yeah.
things that you haven't had the conversation. Names sometimes, but when I have names in one spot, I'm good.
What?
It says, please allow notifications.
Just remind me to.
Every copy or get.
They're trying to mute it for a minute, so.
Yeah.
Just like one seaters, and so we'll have to wait to give you that.
There's two in there. Are there still people out there? Maybe.
I think we're good to go.
Okay. All right. So, real quick. Okay, WordPress multi-site. Does anyone here not know what WordPress multi-site is? Aaron? So I just copied this definition from the WordPress Codex. It is a network, a collection of sites that share the same WordPress installation. So many sites, but on one WordPress installation. They can share plugins and themes, so you don't have to have 15 copies of the same plugin or theme to use it on multiple sites. And it can be used for a sort of like a community where your members can create their own sites, or it can be used for a single organization to create many sites that use the same plugins and themes. I think that is that a panel? Is that a good, solid
discussion
okay.
over? I think that covers it.
Thank you.
There are a lot of questions about WordPress multi-site, and it is sometimes it's overwhelming, sometimes gets a bad rap. We're going to talk about some of the use cases. Why would you consider using it? When is a good situation? What's a good situation for it, and what isn't? Something that you might think would be multi-site, maybe it isn't a great use case. So our panel is going to tell us, first of all, everyone already introduced their names, but go ahead and just repeat your name, your job, and tell us a recent experience or project that you worked on with multi-site. Jeremy.
I'm Jeremy Saxey, work for Free Up Web Studio, and right now actually we have a multi-site install live that it runs events, and so we have there's like a parent install that's kind of the company that runs these events, they're video streaming events, and then for each event that comes up we set up a little multi-site, and that multi-site is up for just the duration of that event during that streaming period for the event. And so, and that's up right now. It actually goes down at midnight tonight. Yeah.
Great. And I'm Mara Teal. I work with Radiate WP and Positive Element as the lead developer. And the project we recently did with Multisite was actually an intranet for an education company, I guess, for their own file sharing in their different departments.
I'm George Lerner, and I'm a WordPress technical problem solver. I've been using multi-site both for all of my personal sites. One client at the other end of the spectrum has about 400 realtors, each of whom has their own site with their own theme, and they manage it for them.
My name's Paul Clark. When I'm doing production work at 10up,
They're usually on Automatic's WordPress.com VIP platform, which is the first use case for multi-site.
And the biggest.
And it's, I think it's pretty big. And so I do audits for theme and plugin deploys, new ones and updates. The last full site I did development for was, I think, all the WordPress sites for TED.com. It was 3 of them, the TED blog being the major one.
That's it.
That's a good guy.
But how you met Bill? I have a crush. Okay.
I haven't met Bill yet.
Chris Wasowski, I work at GoDaddy, and for the last 4.5 years until recently, I managed the support site, which is a large-scale multi-site installation.
That's why they recommended you for this.
Yes, that is exactly why you're there.
Okay, well, thank you, Liz. We're gonna, I have a couple of questions in a few different areas that, just to get the conversation going, but, you know, if we get off track, if it gets interesting, or if you guys have questions, just please, you know, raise your hand. The topics that, that I intend to cover are when to use it, how to decide what is a good use case for it, configuring a new multi-site installation, what's different between multi-site and regular WordPress in terms of actually setting it up, migration, maintenance, and if we have time, we can touch on developing for multi-site. And finally, if I'm hoping that you guys have some resources to recommend. No, there's no resources. No codex. But that's what we've got on the agenda. But again, feel free to interject. So let's start with, let's see. Chris, do you want to start? How would you go about deciding when to use multi-site?
So I actually personally use it for a development environment, for me, because I can keep all sites on one spot. I can easily bounce between plugins and configurations and things like that. For people that want to use it in a production environment, I typically will use it for if it's a small team managing multiple sites greater than like 2 or 3. If you get into 5-10 site range, I like to get people on multi-site because then it's one login, one admin, and they can productively move between the sites that they're managing. That's typically when I'll suggest it to people.
Okay. Anybody else on the panel want to comment on that or share when, you know, how you go about deciding?
Well, one big question is if the client needs multiple sites, especially if they're interested in having multiple sites with the same root domain name and subdomains. That's a quick tip off. The other one is wanting to share users between those multiple sites because you're sharing the same user database and can then quickly add different users to each site as need be. So,
quick question about that. Now, they can share users, but data doesn't seem to be as easy to share across. Yes? No?
What kind of data?
Yeah, what
like posts, pages, you know.
Posts are completely separate.
Yeah.
No.
You can query them.
You can query them.
You can
So,
query
yeah,
them, but
yeah.
not like
Separate-ish.
easily.
But
like,
it's not like I can go on one site and say, you know, there's not just a built-in widget.
Right.
That can,
well, I've had some clients come
grab
to me and be
posts.
like, we want to make a news network and we want to share posts across 6 websites. I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
There are some plugins that'll let you do recent posts from every site in the network. But yeah, it gets custom dev pretty quick.
Yeah.
I would also add, like, on top of like how many sites are there and how much do they have in common. Also, what's the sophistication of the users who are going to be administrating the site? And I was really surprised when I came to TNAP to see clients that are doing really, really large-scale projects, like things like this should obviously be a multi-site, but because the people administering the site just didn't really have that level of sophistication, we engineered it to present the content within one install within a single site, and do it with custom post types instead.
So you're saying it adds a level of complexity.
The site menu sucks. And
yeah,
I think they're
going in
improving it
between
soon.
sites and knowing
Yeah.
which site you're admin of.
Yeah.
If you're in the network view.
It takes a little bit of training, especially because I only recently dove into that multi-site project, and it took a little bit of time to understand what the different limitations were and just how to be sure everyone has the access they need, and then train the client on it. So we did spend a little bit of extra time saying, this is where you go to add users. It's a little different than you're used to. So you're looking for some things in different places. Cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because like we're seeing, posts and pages are pretty much completely independent in the database tables in multi-site, but from the users, the themes, and the plugins, they're available to all the sites in the multi-site, but they're not by default have access to them all, but they're all available. So that's something that people have to, that's the sophistication comes in there. You have to figure out, how themes, plugins, and users, how they are utilized throughout all these little sites.
So the individual sites are not clones of each other, then, right? They can be different, they can look different themes.
They can be very, very different.
They have a different size, different themes.
Although that is one advantage of being a multi-site, is and there are plugins that allow you to set like one site as a template, and then when you create a new site, like say, what site do I want to use as a template for plugin, for theme, and even for base content.
Or you can clone the sites very easily. I ended up using a cloning plugin just straight through with all of my plugins set up, my sidebar set up.
Cool, yeah.
Just change the name.
Yeah, so you talked about clients who had sophisticated needs that obviously needed to be multi-site. What happens when you encounter, you need this to be multi-site, and you need the functionality of plugin X, but plugin X was not written to work in a multi-site environment.
What's your budget?
Yeah. Do you plug and fix, or do you throw away, or?
Well, yeah. So I don't know. Does anyone else want to speak on? This could become a dark.
I didn't know there was some easier fix around there.
So I'd say that by now, the difference between writing a plugin for single site and writing one for multi-site is almost zero. That
very close.
It's very close. That there were plugins that were written for WordPress version 2 point something that don't work on version 3 point something. We're now on version 4. So I think that whole issue is going away. And if you actually see a plugin that doesn't work with multi-site, one of the things to check is it a well-written plugin? It might be worth finding a better plugin.
Yeah, I would agree with that and go even more specific. I think like if a site's not multi-site compatible, it's going to be generally one of 3 things that they neglected to do. Like one, that it might be not compatible because they've hard-coded paths, which I mean that's sloppiness. That's getting another developer. Because if they're doing that, it's definitely not a secure plugin. Like if a guy can't figure out how to directory, he's not going to protect your site from sequencing, right? It's kind of game over. And the other one would be super simple. Does it have a network admin menu when it needs to? Like, does it differentiate between a setting that should be the entire site versus one?
Sites.
It is site.
Yeah. And the other would be, how does it handle activation? Does it have something? And most plugins don't do that. I think that you know the answer to this question, Kurt. You're just not trying to hear us say.
Roles as well. Things would be like global locking.
Roles as well.
Global locking?
Yeah, like site transient versus transient.
Yeah.
Well, and
well, right over my head. Back up a little bit. What does that mean, and should this audience care?
So this is super technical. I mean, like in doing code audits, I've only ever seen 2 developers mess this up, maybe out of like 200. But like there's a get option and set option, get option, update option, and get transient and update transient, and then there's site variants of those. So you could say get site option, and that's now the variant that'll work on a single site. So like this is the sloppiness. You'll see sloppy developers like get site option on my site of 1, and then you put it on a multi-site, and it's like, my site option is shared by all 1,000 sites in the network. Like if you deployed that to VIP, they would kill you because that would apply to 1 million sites.
Wow. That's a consequence.
Yeah.
But knowing when to use it, I mean, it is helpful. Like if it's data that can be shared across every site, then why have, if you have 1,000 sites, why have 1,000 options in the database?
Yeah.
Whereas it's one option shared by all.
Yeah, like what's my plugin version would be a site option.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the role management. So I had an issue where I said admins, and the person was technically a site super admin and not counted as an admin on the site I was at.
Yeah, I've had that.
So the role management can get a little tricky here and there. But
You answered my question, which was
in summary,
you either have to fix it or find the new.
Yeah, fix it, find it.
Yeah, for plugin developers, there's some new things to learn. For users of the sites or developers of the content of the site, just find a well-written plugin.
Yeah.
But if you're doing quick, like if you're thinking, oh, I'm running an agency, I've got like 100 clients in a year or something. That's a lot of clients. But I'm gonna like put them all on one multi-site. Like you're gonna waste a ton of time because none of your plugins are gonna work. I mean, and not of them, but you're gonna. I mean, you're signing up for plugin audits.
Well, and I'm going to jump ahead really quickly on that. Things like backing up get a little bit more complicated. Backup Buddy has been in beta for Multisite for like the last 2 years. So that's one thing that I wasn't going to fix that. I had to recommend a backup plugin, and so I ended up going with an alternate, which I'm sure we'll get to, but that is a really simple case to, I had to kind of rethink that and go, oh, I can't just use the go-to. There's alternatives.
I don't mind jumping ahead, but I want to go back a step just for another minute because okay. I'm not totally clear yet on when to use it versus when not to. So let me give you an example. I heard a use case being that you've got a lot of sites to manage. So there are other ways to handle that. There's sync from iThemes, there's WP Manage, there's Infinite WP, which we use and love, and that gives us access and some management capabilities over unlimited numbers of sites from one interface. How would you go about deciding on multi-site for that use case versus a site management tool?
Does your database need to be separate between all the sites?
Say I don't know or care.
Then you shouldn't use it. If you don't know or care, you shouldn't use it for all situations.
In general, one of the big, like I was
Why
saying,
would it need to be?
the users, themes, and plugins are what are available to all of the sites on the network. So if you don't need to share in either of those, the sites are completely independent from users, themes, and plugins. Then there's probably a good case that why would you try and squeeze them
Other
on?
than me, one user.
Yeah,
Like I'm the one user that's in common, right? Or my team, but that's not a good use case for one user.
For clients, when I talk to them, if there's a case where multi-site might be an option, that's what if the themes, users, and plugins don't have anything to do with each other from one site to the next, then it's like you're almost throwing a bunch of sites in together, and all their plugins and everything are all mixed together and jumbled together, but nothing's being shared. Yeah. It's almost there's a case to be made. I'm not saying that that's the only consideration, but there's a case to be made there that maybe it's not a good a good case scenario for multi-site. But that said, like our websites for FreeUp and also my old and web guys, we have those on multi-sites, and they don't really have anything to do with each other as far as the themes and the plugins a little bit, but barely. But for that reason, it was more of what he said. It was because I'm managing them all, and so I'm the super admin user on the network, and so I can just get to them all from one login. I don't have to be, and I can update all the plugins at once for every single site because they're all just one plugin instead of.
Why would you choose to do that over using a site management tool, Jeremy?
One of the reasons I did was because I moved to WP Engine, and so it only took one install for multi-site instead of 3 independent installs. And so that was a case
to
save some money. Yeah. So Flywheel charges $10 a month. They were saying for multi-site because maybe they're trying to make people don't do that as much. But yeah, that was one of the reasons because then I could just use one install instead of more. But also it was just for ease. It's easier to log into one site and click update once than to go to all of those and click update multiple times.
Right.
So when you add a site, as a site admin user too, do you just use a bunch of fake email addresses or something because you can't reuse an email address in the same account?
You would have one for this example. You'd have one admin, and then you create a site, and you don't need another admin for that site.
The user table is shared across all
The
sites.
users are
and
shared.
They're given permission.
Okay. You would decide, somebody's going to be writing the content for that new site, and so you would create that user for that site. Or add it to another site.
Screen?
It might have been the clone plugin I was using, but it required an admin, a site admin.
Yeah, in multi-site, you don't really use cloning nearly as much.
Well, I wanted 1,000 copies. So,
1,000 copies!
I don't know what cloning plugin you're using, but that multi-site doesn't require you to have a separate user for each one of those, or a separate admin.
So for the really, hey, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't care. I just want my 5 sites up. I'd say is actually kind of contradicting, but not really. That's a perfect example of when you should use multi-site, because they've got one place to update plugins, one place to update themes, one place to do the administration. They understand it. They don't have to do as many decisions for setting it up.
Okay.
And they don't have to learn the tool that you've learned. So for a lot of people, hey, how do I use this thing to create a new site? Just go multi-site. How do I create a new site once it's set up? Add new. You spend more time figuring out what you're going to call it than actually creating the site.
That's an interesting reason to go with multi-site if your clients are going to need to create more sites. Chris, do you disagree?
2 points. So if they're going to be on the same subdomain or a subdirectory install, easy, no problem.
But
If you need separate domain names,
okay,
it turns into a very technical problem very fast.
All right, well, let's move on to the
however-
configuration then. Tell us about that.
However, there's a domain mapping plugin. Documentation for it
There
on the
is,
internet
but that's very
sucks.
technical.
But it's for developers,
It's
not
for
for
developers.
clients.
It's
The
not
client's
for
not gonna.
But
I mean, not without a guide, like step by step.
I've got the instructions for setting it up step by step. I'm good at writing that. Most of the instructions on it are terrible.
Mhm.
That's why I had to write mine. Once I set it up for someone, then it's just, okay, what domain do you want it to map to? And for which site?
I mean,
and for a user, it would be seamless once it's set up
By the
someone
developer.
technical.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the hard part.
So once it's working, it works.
Right.
Ish. I mean, I like
Yay.
gave step-by-step steps for domains to an enterprise client's IT department. But I like the 3rd domain. They didn't have to call me for adding a site.
It's not the easiest.
Yeah.
That's another one of those, when I was saying the users, themes, and plugins, if they're not going to be shared between any of the sites, that's kind of like a flag to make you ask yourself, okay, does this really need to be multi-site? I'd say if every site is going to have its own domain name, that doesn't mean they shouldn't be on multi-site, but it's a flag to ask yourself, okay, if they all have their own domain names, do they need to be on a multi-site? It's just another one to ask, another moment to ask that question.
And every
It is
one of those
necessary.
several hundred real estate sites has its own domain name.
Yeah. So it's
That's
not
not at all related to the domain that multi-site itself is on. It's their domain name.
Yeah.
And they don't need to all be the same. Like if just the themes are always the same, or just the plugins are always the same, or just the users. I would also add just the client and the performance configuration is always the same. Then you'll probably have enough time savings. Like I would go with multi-site over something like Infinite WP if you're doing a very finely tuned hosting environment where we're not just throwing this in WP Engine or DreamHost or whatever, GoDaddy. But we have a virtual machine and we're installing Memcache and we're installing a CDN and all those hyper optimizations. There's that take 8 hours to set up. There's an advantage to doing them once instead of 10 times.
Yeah. Does anybody here have a use case that they're wondering about?
Well, what does Scott has something?
Scott
Thank
really
you.
has
Thank
a
you,
use
Cassie.
case.
Before we move on.
Is it possible to make it so that, and it is the same thing. So I have one client where we should, right now I'm not even using multi-site, I'm just creating separate sites because we clone it each time. So if there's a cloning plugin and it looks like it could work, then I might move them to multi-site. But the biggest thing, can you make it so that the plugins and the themes are shared, so that way it's easy to keep it up to date, but not the users? Let's just say if they created a user, it's actually one site per state. If they wanted to create users specifically per state, could they make it so that when
Yes,
somebody
you can assign a user
to a specific
To a
site.
site, yeah.
to a site.
Or say.
And they
all
can be an
sites.
administrator or contributor or editor, just like in standalone WordPress. And then you've got a super admin, new set of roles for the whole network.
When we say that users are shared, we don't mean that
just
when you
in
add a
the
user,
site.
they're automatically on all sites. When we say users are shared, it means if, let's say we have a company and we have a site with 10 clients on it, and one client actually has 2 sites. Well, they only have to create one login. We can then assign their user to be access 2 sites out of the 10.
What would that be called? Is that because that's not a super admin, right?
No, you would assign them as administrators on each site individually. We would be the super admins as.
Or you
super
could,
admin
or
is
you
the
could assign
network
someone
admin.
as an author on
Or you can
2
assign someone as
sites,
an
or
author.
on,
Yes.
you could assign your assistant to be an author on 10 sites.
When we say that, when we say the users are shared, it's more along the lines of they don't have to create another account somewhere. You can say, oh, you already have an account with us. We'll put you on this
And
site as well.
I've messed with multi-site a few times, but it's been a while, and it's a little fun to use. But is that I forget? Do you do that through the do you do that through the network admin, or like let's just say if somebody's already an author of one website, and you want to make them an author of another website, where do you do that?
You can do it in either.
So
do it in both.
I want
Do it in both.
to raise a little point there that I had a fun little adventure with that where it was a little bit more complicated just to find the right plugin as far as user management. The baked-in stuff is not necessarily all that advanced, so you have to add a plugin if you want to bulk add users, bulk add them to a specific site, and even like checking to see if a user got the confirmation. A bit of a learning curve there that I would say I still didn't quite learn all of it.
So does it seem like multi-site, and this is probably another like full question, but does it seem like multi-site needs more attention from like to make it so that it actually has those kind of features rather than just pressing plugin?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does.
So why doesn't it get that attention?
Because it's the unique.
Yeah, it's not a heavily used.
But they rolled it into the main WordPress, which was nice, and I think that was a big step. And so I think it's getting attention accidentally because just WordPress is getting attention and it's the same piece. But I think like
people may not know it's not 2 separate products.
Yeah.
It's one product, and you enable an option, and you've got multi-site capabilities.
It's not that it's neglected. It's just that a single site WordPress admin is meant to be used by an end user, like 5-minute install. And when you go to multi-site, you're switching to the same infrastructure that's on like WordPress.com for every like WordPress site that it hosts. Like it's made for engineers, and so there's just gotchas. You don't want to run, as an end user.
Ava?
I was just curious about performance and if you had different clients, it's sort of like shared hosting, right?
Yeah.
And what's the performance like?
Are there
does it
concerns?
look great?
It's at the database level. If you're hosting on your shared hosting account 10 sites on multi-site versus 10 sites as separate WordPress installations, you're going to have more files installed on your shared hosting account, but you're going to have the same database activity virtually identically. There's a little bit of overhead.
How would you allocate the charges or the costs?
For something like, if you're
They
going
would all
to
have to be hosted on the same.
Yeah.
they all have to be hosted on the same. If you're going to be hosting on the same account, there's no real way of allocating, hosting charges. Right.
You're going to be billing them through WordPress for WordPress admin access. You're not going to give them FTP access or cPanel access. So you bill like you're basically like hosting a membership site that allows blog creation for members.
So there's another item of note. It's the FTP or file access, right?
Yeah, you could give them access to like the uploads directory and like restrict to non-executables. But otherwise, you like. I mean, you don't really want to do that. Like that's like you got to lock that down because like if somebody uploads a PHP file, like they're gonna have write access to the entire database.
Give them FTP access to their folder that is actually outside of WordPress, that you can do securely.
Well, no, because that's what Paul's talking about. Is if someone uploads an FTP file,
Yeah, if you
a
give me
PHP
FTP
file.
access
Yeah.
to a site that's a multi-site, like I'll have admin access.
Yeah, so
Like, it's
there's
just-
a great reason,
no,
you know,
don't do that.
we have a couple of clients that, you know, we manage, you know, the bulk of the sites, but we have, you know, a very less than 5 that are like, we want admin account access, including SFTP, which we're happy, you know, we're like, that's great.
But if we were on multi-site,
yeah, we would have to rethink that. And what if we had already set them up on our multi-site network? We have to, you know.
Well, you can export from your multi-site to their separate hosting account.
No, yeah, it's not that you can't export it, it's
Yeah,
that we
but
have
it's
to
just-
then do
there's
it.
a-
There's just risks. There's
Yeah.
risks in
Yeah.
custom development. Yeah.
Yeah.
what so I heard that the configuration is a little bit different. It's not that 5-minute install that installing regular WordPress is. What's
Well,
different about it?
Neither is WordPress itself. You've got to figure out, okay, what are you going to do for SEO? What are you going to do for your Facebook plugins? What are you going to do
Yeah, we're
for...
not even there yet. We're
talking about setting up.
all
turn it on.
Yeah, we're not talking about necessarily that as far as an install goes. We're talking about
How do you
getting
enable
the
it?
files on the server
And enabling multi-site as opposed to the regular installation. What do you have to do?
So oddly enough, the best documentation is on Codex, and this is
Yeah.
like the only
One of
good
the few things.
documentations for multi-site.
And once
It
I
gives-
figured it out, it was like, oh, that was actually easier than I thought it would
Yeah.
be, but I had to figure it out.
Yeah,
first.
it's kind of a weird process. You set one flag in your WP config, just like the WP debug, or you set one flag in a file, so you do have to have access to WP config, and it allows you to enable multi-site. It's under the tools. I think it's like set up network is what it comes up as. Yeah.
And if you're just starting, you're going to want to do a subdirectory install, because like for a subdomain install, you either have to set up DNS for every subdomain to point to your server's IP, or you have to set up a wildcard subdomain, which is just like mind-numbing. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I didn't. Once I found some sort of documentation on the wildcard that I ended up making it relatively smooth.
Yeah, it depends on who your host is. Mostly for local dev, like
local
if you
dev.
have to do it manually, it's not fun. But you also just like you can do your test sites.
On Map Pro, you can set up wildcard.
Well,
Quite easily, I believe.
I'm-
I haven't been anymore actually, but
So-
Sorry, you can teach
The codex instruction is fairly clear. I did documentation on what I found for installing, and it's been working for people for 2 years now. You only have to do it once, so you just go through the steps. The only real thing that I found is that if you're going to be using multi-site with any type of domain mapping, you must install in the root of your account, or you must install in the root of a subdomain of your account. Because the domain mapping, not a WordPress concern, but the DNS concern doesn't work. And yeah, you may have to get your shared hosting technical support people to give you wildcard DNS. I actually wrote up.
Mara will do it for you.
Yeah.
Give her a Twitter handle.
I had the shared hosting I had at the time would not support multi-site because it's a third-party app that they don't support. And I finally realized, oh, I was asking the wrong question. All I needed them to do was set up wildcard DNS. And once they got that set up, I could do everything else.
How does that work? Sorry. How does that work if you use wildcard DNS for, let's just say if you still have webmail dot your domain and it goes to Google Apps?
It's a fallback only.
Yeah, you can set.
Yeah,
you
if
can
it doesn't
actually,
exist, the subdomain doesn't exist, then it just goes to whatever the wildcard.
and in site creation for multi-site, you can block certain subdomains from being used or created.
Good question. I was wondering the same thing about wildcard emails, though. I think that it's the same case. with
Yeah, it's
wildcard
just like a
email.
catch-all email.
Yeah. But if I have 3 other account addresses, they're safe.
They're safe.
Thank you.
It's funny you mentioned the like blocking certain ones, because there was one time where there was a SaaS platform they introduced where you could set a like a subdomain for your account, and for their general one it was like clients dot whatever, and they just launched it. 5 minutes later, I was like, let me put clients dot. And their whole entire website was taken down where it was just my like internal site. So I called them up and I'm like, I'm sorry, you might want to. So they were up until like 1 a.m. fixing that. I felt a little kind of shocked. But I tested it, right?
You didn't pay the service, right?
Yeah, they should be paying you to do QA.
Are there security concerns?
Yeah, we have to go there.
We don't have to. We
No,
just
I mean, it's the same. Personally, it's the same security you're running with regular WordPress. You're still running the plugins. You're still running themes. If there's a security breach in one, there's a security breach in all your sites.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
because it's the same plugin file. So you don't install the plugin on 10 sites. You install the plugin once, and that same code runs across 10 sites.
Also, and the flip side is, if you install a plugin in one single WordPress installation, it can find out all of yours. So
If they're on the same server.
If they're on the same server. So as far as I can tell, it's a toss-up.
Okay.
Security-wise,
If they're in the same account.
if they're in the same account.
Yeah, see, that's where I was gonna say.
Like a user?
Some of the hosts like Flywheel, I know they go.
Oh, yeah, on the same
example,
computer.
keep all the accounts separate.
Yeah, but if you have a regular GoDaddy account, then you can set up 5 subdomains on your one account, not the WordPress hosting.
If you
Then
use
they're all
the
sharing.
shared hosting,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
one account and 5 sites next to each other.
Right.
So
Then it's the same thing. Then it's a toss-up.
Completely a toss-up. If they're in, they're in.
So like, I never saw this stuff till I started doing audits for God so
Yeah, something good's going
like for TED and ESPN and like all that stuff, like the Discuss play and all these things, like so Automatic will not let a PHP file go onto WordPress.com servers, like the environment at all, period, until it passes an automated scan and an engineer, like that's what I do, goes through it line by line.
The next time we need something for the WordCamp site, I know who to call.
Great. And it is because, like, okay, WordPress core is secure. If you have a multi-site that anyone wants to hack, and like there's an important reason you need it not to get hacked, and you just like put any plugin from the .o repo on there, like you're insane, because none of them are secure. Like even the really, really good plugins are not secure. Like for a plugin to be secure, like the developer has to go through, and every single time they put anything into the database, they have to like do 10 extra steps and like make sure it is exactly what is allowed to go in the database and nothing else. And every time they echo anything in the plugin or in the theme, like anything, like this is the site path, or this is like some option, or this is the date, they have to run it through sanitization functions to be like, only let an email address go out here, only let like HTML go out here, and like just nobody does it.
So, but that sounds like that's true for multi
And singles.
and regular sites.
But the difference with multi-site is if you got 100 clients on there, you piss like this happened with an agency I worked with a long time. They were an auto mechanic. This ruined my week. It might ruin my month. I worked with an agency that worked with mechanics. Like so they did websites only for mechanics, and we had probably like 40 mechanic sites.
So good use case for multi.
Yeah, it was a great use case. All the themes were like pretty much the same with color scheme variations and like content differences. So it was great for multi-site. Until one of the mechanics in Canada pisses some dude off and doesn't fix his car, and that guy's a nerd, and he starts doing denial of service attacks and like login like bash login attempts on one of the mechanics. And so I'm up all week, like late nights, because this guy has rented a zombie farm of servers and is hitting this what one mechanic doesn't like. He doesn't realize that I'm trying to keep all 40 mechanics up.
That's when you like put the sign up. You're like, please, for the love of God.
There's another developer over here. Your mechanic is not the one suffering.
Cost, we will pay you.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. So it's just wider exposure, and like if you don't have time to go through, like, most developers can't go through and look at the code like that. Like it costs a lot of money to find somebody who can do that. So like you at least have to be diligent. Like install security or something that'll automatically scan. Have a nightly backup. Like have your core code on Git.
Host on a security-minded hosting platform.
Yeah, because you can always depend on your host to have your back and keep your site secure. Always. Better than others. Like, yeah, don't be on SharePoint. Get on a VPS. GoDaddy will save. But then you can call Kurt. Like, Kurt.
Yes, if you have Kurt's personal email address.
We actually have pushed out updates for things like MailPoet and some of the other vulnerabilities that were bad.
Yeah.
So we have actually gone through and updated that for users.
Good.
In addition to all the other security stuff.
Yeah. Do be with a big name like GoDaddy or someone else who is actually updating the infrastructure. If you're with a no name and they're like, oh, we'll update PHP when you get around to it. Now you have the same problem as your plugins. Like PHP is a vulnerability your site's had.
Did you have another security question?
Well, with VFP, I wanted to know how many people are connected to one multi-site, or or even WordPress.com. Is it that
it is
one?
Is the number 5 most visited traffic site on all the internet, not counting their VIP installs. So it is
That's WordPress.com.
WordPress.com. It's millions and millions and millions and millions of sites.
So how do they take one multi-site? Because it's obviously not one server.
It's not one server. It is one install.
So how does that happen? That's probably
technical magic behind the scenes.
So it's funny. So we're actually
Go for it.
Our site. Yeah, I'll that's a fun one. So you want to draw it? So the support site for GoDaddy is actually a multi-site, but it's not run on one server. It was originally across 32 web servers.
So how does that happen?
And 16 database
Originally?
servers. Yeah,
16.
Yep, and I've reduced it down to 16 web and 8. Because your support is that good. Because I just optimize stuff. And remove buddy press.
Those aren't all active at the same time.
They're not all active at the same time either. We can swing between two. So how that works is we have a load balancer in front of all at 1.32 servers. And the load balancer distributes the traffic evenly across all the web servers. And what it does is monitors what servers are responding and what servers are not responding. And then switches off, okay, well that one's not responding, I'll send it to the other servers. And then we used HyperDB, which was originally written to support WordPress.com.
What was it called?
HyperDB.
HyperDB.
It allows one WordPress installation to connect to multiple database servers. You set one up as the read-write server, and the other one's up as the read-only servers, and then all writes happen to one, reads go from all of them, and then it distributes out changes. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, we did it much smaller than what WordPress.com is, but this is a really cool thing about the internet, how the internet works once you understand it, because it's not just WordPress.com multi-site. It's that the entire infrastructure of internet software is that it is stateless. And what that means is that when you make a request to a website, it does not care. Like, you can make one request to a site in Canada and another request to a site in Mexico for one session and get back the correct information as if you're talking to one computer. And when you understand that, then you can do really fancy cheating things with infrastructure. That's how Amazon S3 works. Is when you rent time on an Amazon S3 server or any of the application frameworks that build on it, like what they actually do is you have your server, but what they do is they just turn it off. They turn the computer off, like if it's not being used, and then if somebody requests your website, they boot up a disk image and load up a site, install your stuff, and then show it to the user, in really low performance situations. Or if you get lots of traffic, they just start flipping on switches on more computers, install the image of your software, and people get the new info. And that when people talk about cloud computing and being on a grid, that's what they mean. It's an infrastructure where it can morph to adapt to the amount of traffic that you're receiving.
So would it be that the PHP files and are the PHP files on all of the servers?
Yeah, all.
What about the theme and the folder or the
same thing? Yeah.
So
there's more technical.
Let's come back down to it.
It's been so much fun.
All right, so security in a nutshell is that it's the same exact concerns as regular WordPress, and you need to be vigilant, but even a little bit so, because if you've got many different sites or clients, then one down, all down.
The risk is higher.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, let's move
So
on.
it's like that much higher than having 10 separate installations, and some hacker gets in.
10 separate installations all under the same account.
On the same account.
On a shared hosting. Yeah.
That's it. And then the one unique thing is from a user perspective, you have to properly manage your users, because on a single site, we always talk about managing user roles so that they only have the role that they need for that site. So you're having to add lots of people to lots of different sites. I mean, you just have to be careful with that, and you have to be careful to never set someone as super admin.
So you're saying you need to be careful about giving people access to more than they should have access to.
That, which is the same as it is on a single install, but there's also a new role, which is super admin.
Right.
And so that's someone that can do anything they want in the entire network, because users are managed, besides the super admin, users are managed on a site-by-site basis. And so you can assign them roles on each one. And so that's the same idea as it is on the single install, but you just would never want to set someone accidentally to super admin, because then that's like even worse than admin on a single install, because that's a super admin
They
to
can
do
now
all of
take
those.
down all of
You
your
can do a lot of
other
stuff
sites.
on a lot of sites, yeah.
Okay. Any questions about security or maintenance or user management?
So they consider it one install, like I manage WP Engine or something like that.
Yeah, it's one
right?
install. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's good, then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think with WP Engine, I think you have to have the business
they charge
account.
more.
The
You have to have
99.
business, in order to do multi-site, you have to have the 99 a month plan.
What about on the GoDaddy?
We don't
hosting?
offer multi-site support with the managed plans.
Is that yet or is that ever?
It's not on our next 3-month roadmap.
Got it.
So it's coming. It's just right now we haven't actually have a lot of user demand for it.
Yeah.
And SiteGround, you're doing it. They support you in doing it. They will automatically update it. Most of the other shared hosting accounts, they care about how many databases you're using. They don't care about how many WordPress installations you have, because they're not tracking. And WordPress multi-site can be on. It's obviously all one database. Single site, you can use the same database with different
But you generally don't.
table prefix.
Yeah. Well, SiteGround is they traffic you based on, they do shut you down based on your traffic. Right? So like if you have 100 sites and then you get like 1,000 page views, then they'll throttle you. But then you just have to plan.
You just have to plan.
Yeah.
I think I read that that multi-site uses that each site. I know that each site has its own uploads folder, so each site's uploads are set on the other sites, like the images and whatnot that they're using. I also read that I think the tables in the database are separate from site to site. Is that important to us? Do we need to take care of that? Is that like a
backup,
or?
You can. I don't know how you would manage permissions of it, but you can do a backup of just this site's set of tables.
So if I want to, that's what allows me to back up one site at a time.
Yes.
Is that okay? So it sounds like it might be important to migration then.
Yeah, except there's a caveat there, is that the users table, since users are shared, the users table, there's just one. There's not a per site users table.
Same with
there's the options. Yeah, the
There's
options.
Each site can have an options table, and then there's the network-wide options table. And you really don't know if there's stuff in the network-wide table that you want to export.
How do you migrate? Sorry. No, I'm sorry.
If you were like using
backup,
if you were like using Backup Buddy to take one of the sites away and move it somewhere else, you're just actually moving a multi-site, then aren't you? How could you?
That's in beta.
Could you peel away
For the last 2
one
years.
of the sites?
So the BackWPUP is compatible. You can select in group of tables.
That's a plugin
BackWP.
But that's just for the database, or is that for the
whole thing?
WP Up is like a competitor
so
to
plug
Backup.
in everything would move, or
you
be backed up?
Your choice.
Backup Buddy also, the beta is good. It supports it, and Backup Buddy is really good at memory management, which is important. And WP Migrate DB Pro also supports extraction of a site out of multi-site, and it doesn't. No, Brad is. Oh yeah, it's excellent. It's excellent, and it has an add-on for uploads. If you're really geeky, Trepmall, Kaylee Lambert has a WP CLI script that'll do it for free. But also the uploads folder, and So a Backup Buddy or Backup WP Up, you probably do it, but it's just like when you have like 20 sites or 100 sites, your uploads folder, like even if nobody's being like gluttonous in their upload size, you're gonna have like a 10 gig uploads folder, and like you might be able to like tar that up or like zip it up and like download it or like FTP it down, be sitting there for a week.
You could FTP it to a CDN like Amazon.
Yeah, and that's the better thing is that you want to if it's much better to be at the level of sophistication where like I can offload these to a CDN, or if I'm transferring to another server, I know how to do it a server to server transfer.
Server to server transfer.
Yeah. Save yourself a lot of tears that way.
I mean, I actually had to go through the process that was the opposite of that. I'm surprised I never hear about this use case very much, but with my old WebGuys company, and then we started FreeUp and moved to WP Engine, I had my installs of my 3 different websites for WebGuys. I had them on separate installs, and I wanted to migrate them into a single multi-site. That's a bigger pain in the butt.
I've done it. I actually wanted, maybe you and I can work together. I think
I don't know why
a properly done plugin could do exactly that. There's only 23 separate interconnected database updates that need to be done that are sort of documented.
Okay. So migration from single site.
Pump that out tonight.
Okay. So for doing it by hand, it's crazy, but that type of stuff. We should just teach them how.
Yeah.
But you literally can take individual WordPress installations and bring them into multi-site without messing any of your multi-site up. It's just hard.
It doesn't sound like fun.
No, it's not
Yeah,
fun.
the opposite
No
direction,
interest, yep.
exporting from multi-site to some other installation, it is very straightforward.
There's a bigger market for that direction for some reason.
I know, that's what I was so confused. I was like, every Google search, everyone's talking about going from multi-site to single site. I'm like, what about my case? Like, and there's almost nothing out there about that. It was a pain.
A lot of times you're just building a new network.
Yep. Or you can use an XML, the WordPress XML file.
That's what I've done.
Except it
But
doesn't
then you
bring over
miss
the
all the
settings and the
Yeah, all the settings.
Look behind
Okay, I have a question from Steph Karsten. What happens when you have 20 clients and you decide to upgrade WordPress to 4.0 and everyone's TinyMC crashes?
You're up 4.0
What crashes?
Your text editor.
Oh, TinyMC.
You create and give
I'm
yourself
guessing
phone
that
number.
happened.
Well, I would.
What's a plugin?
I don't know. That's like
Something
a question. Like, if you manage 40 installs that are independent and 4.0 breaks them, then don't test the update first.
Just first.
Restore the update first, and then
Ah.
So I don't really.
You should be running trunk anyways in your development environment. You would have caught it.
What does that mean?
You should be running the latest and greatest nightly in your development environment.
The latest build
Okay, all right, then you would have seen it coming.
in your development
In your
environment.
development.
Yeah, that's where that comes back to the whole
Sophistication.
test first.
Yeah. Well, and if you are just
environment of a big multi-site network, though, I actually am kind of curious that, like, I don't want a separate test environment to manage pull down locally.
I would never download
my GitHub, there's PD Clark, GitHub PD Clark, there's a file called find.php. It does the same thing as WPCLI, but it's, or like MigrateDB Pro, but it's useful when like you just have like no access, like WordPress isn't running, or you don't have SSH access, which is a PHP file that'll iterate over the database and go find a place.
Never used that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, there might be the only person in the world that's ever done that.
Try again. You could enable the audio.
Yeah, the audio is enabled on mine, so we may have that horrible sound in a moment.
What? No one gets to see my face.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason I'm doing this.
So, what other questions do you guys have? Because I think, I mean, the last set of questions are about developing for Multisite, but I feel like we've had a lot of developer level questions already, and I want to make sure that we have that we answer user level questions. Anybody wondering? I'm like, anybody wondering what's different about the way it looks? You know, when you log in. When I log in, what's different?
Actually, from a regular admin level, it's
I would love that.
It's relatively close.
It's pretty similar.
Well,
It's
can you
just
do it from
super
here?
admin. You're like, yes.
Oh.
No, because I'm not on VPN, so I can see it.
All right.
I was going to show you, but.
Here, show us.
While he's doing that, I haven't looked at this in a while. If you're setting up a public log network, you can registering their sites. And you want to add fields to the registration process.
All the things. Yeah. Or the types plugin. Yeah, custom post type.
You'll do a custom site as
Site
a
registration.
Site setup, not post setup.
Yep. Yeah, I was just. I want to make sure.
You're talking about user,
So-
Gravity Forms has an add-on for custom user registration. So I think you have to be in the profile and get the add-on.
But it'll do the site registration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even with Gravity's the easiest one I've seen that will handle site setup. I think even then for custom fields, you're gonna have to go developer and like hook in and say like, what do you want to do with that data, other than send it to an email, you know?
Like if you want to gather like more of a full user profile person, like a phone number and
It'll probably let you
address and that kind of.
It'll connect to that, but I'm saying like if you want it, like if user profile has that in user add-on, but then like if you want to add in like what do you want the tagline of your site to be, or what do you want the theme to be? Now, have you seen site setup? WPNU dev probably has one.
One thing that's never been mentioned too is with that the users where they set up their own sites and they kind of sign up to have their own site. Multisite has a lot stricter username rules because of that. Because by default the site name is /username. So all the fancy usernames that you can use in WordPress, single site, and multi-site, you can't, have the spaces. You can't even have capital letters because the URL basically ignores capital, so you can't have capital letters. So the usernames are like, I think it's pretty much hyphens and letters and numbers.
Whatever's URL.
Yeah.
Users can also not. There's also others like really obscure security restrictions that will like bite you in the butt because they don't like tell you. Like if you're on a multi-site, now all of a sudden you can't use iframes in the post editor. You can't use JavaScript in the post editor. Like you have to manually re-enable.
For web subsites, and so because when you have that, you need the URL to actually work. So if you don't have that, then you can have whatever you want.
Right. I've seen the one that takes out the email process and verify your email and link back.
Don't do that for creating sites. You'll get every spammer in the world signing up.
Yeah.
Blogging, all of it. All right, so I mean, here's kind of the difference. So this is what we're all used to. The home visit site dashboard on the left. That's what we all see in our normal installs, and that's pretty much what we're all used to. The difference you get in multi-site is the top now becomes, as a super admin, that's what this user has. You get this My Sites leading me to all 3 of my WordPress installations that are inside this multi-site, as well as a super admin and a network admin. And this is where a whole other section of settings that you can go through and say, I want to manage all the plugins, or run all the updates, or add a user, or add a new site.
So one thing I found when I was adding users to sites was you can add the users to the network admin, in this network admin area, but then I had to manually go in and add them to the sites they needed added to too.
Yep. So like,
So that was a little convoluted. Was I couldn't just add them all and then select. You use what we created if this user.
Yeah, and I have admin and admin plugin, right? So, but it did make it. And yes, if I go to this, I can go to the dashboard for it. I can go to my users. I can add new user. And this is where we look. We get 2 options now. Usually, you just get to add a user down here. But when you have multi-site, I can actually say, well, I have a user who's customer add. And it gives me, okay, well, this is a user already in the database. I'm going to add them to this site as, we'll just say, the administrator. And I can say, I don't want to send them the email. And that's how you then manage the users. So if we look at customer 1 is now an administrator on this new site. But customer 1 would not be on something like one of these other sites and go to users. See that I don't have. Oh, I did add them, but unless they're a subscriber. They're a subscriber, not an admin. So they've already been added to the site.
I like.
Good example. It shows you can have different permissions.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Winning.
I like how you add users in multi-site better than single site.
So there's one. I don't have them.
Because I like the option there about don't send them the email, and it just adds them immediately. Yep. I wish that was in single.
I think it is now.
It is.
I gave a client, I was adding like 20 users for a client, I warned them that they were going to get a bunch of emails, and then when I went in, I'm like, oh.
You have to check off the thing.
Wait a second, so this password. They don't
password.
have to, but
No, but
since
that's
I warned them already.
That's different.
That just means
go to your profile.
That's different.
They won't get any kind of an email if you don't check that box.
So what I was saying is the password part of it.
I thought there was a way in your profile that you can set whether or not they receive like notifications. I guess that's in settings. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about passwords.
When you add
yeah. So yeah,
because this in single site, you have to pick their password and then you choose to send them their password or not. In multi-site, you don't have to set their password. You just add them, and they pick their own. Yeah, I wish that was
yeah.
in single
So if
site.
I go to,
You're right.
I wonder why.
I know. I don't know why that doesn't.
How do they pick their own when they log
So
in?
using
just
a-
send it.
So
it'll generate them,
and it just does it for you. It just generates something. They don't have to. Even it's not on this screen, but on the single site when you did it, where you still don't have to put in a password, even though it doesn't send them an email. So I don't remember exactly what happens in that scenario, but go to add new user. It makes more sense for people adding users. Like I don't care about their passwords, they do.
Yeah.
And so you can say add them without saying the email that requires a confirmation, and it just adds them, and they don't have to get the email, and the password just generated. I think it just requires them to set one up when they go to the site. So I wish that was in the main.
No, I think the trickiest thing with multi-site and plugins is in themes is before a theme is available to the sub-sites, you have to actually network enable it. So like 2011 would not be usable on any of my sites. I needed like those 3 sites here until I network enable it. So you can install a theme and then not enable it for everyone. So you can only enable certain themes or whatnot. Or you can force only one theme. Yep.
How do you do that?
Well, you just only enable one.
Oh, you mean
Yep.
you only enable.
And then the same thing with plugins is you can either say, and this is actually kind of
different.
It's a little different. It's called network activate, enable or disable. But if I network activate a plugin, the sites cannot disable.
So you're right now in
I am
management
in-
for all
I am
sites.
in management for all sites. If I were to say I want to network activate debug bar, so it's now network activated. If I go into any individual site and go into the plugin,
It doesn't even show up.
it doesn't even show up for me.
Yeah, because it's
network activated.
It's
So
kind of
it's
like an MU.
right there. No, these are
These are all
these are
these are all available, but they're not active on the site.
debug bar was the one I network activated, not debug bar console. These are additions to debug bar. Sorry, that's.
So there's only 3 active on the site.
There are only 3 active.
However, up on the top, it has debug.
Yeah, so you know this network activated. My debug bar is
That's for you.
that is for any admin.
All right.
So that was just the that.
So if you don't do that network activation, then any plugin that you have on multi-site is available to any other.
Yep. So like all these are not network activated. I could activate a Kismet here, and it would only activate it for this site. Other
Right.
sites could either enable or disable.
A Kismet is one of those great examples of a plugin that you probably want to network activate.
Okay. Favorite feature of multi-site?
My site's menu.
My site menu?
Because I use it for
To
development
navigate,
environment,
boom, boom,
it's
boom.
great for me to bounce through.
I have a question back on the themes. You're talking about using one theme. So what if you gave them an option?
If you are managing all of the sites for clients, then yeah, you go. Okay, favorite multi-site feature? Oh,
So I wrote a plugin called Styles that a lot of people use on multi-site, because what it does is like if you have like 2013 installed on all the sites and you don't want the theme code to change, but what it does is it lets people change the colors in the customizer because all their settings are different. They can have, like one person can have a red banner or like a different font. Even though it's the same theme. So the theme can be the same, but then you can add plugins that change options and appearance without having to give access to the core site. Yeah.
And a lot of themes, but also the theme settings would be stored in the individual sites options, not globally. So any theme customization from the menu is theirs.
Cool. One, user management and being able to share with users. Okay, Jeremy, favorite feature? Besides
I
the-
dare you.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. Actually.
That's actually what made me think of the question.
Yeah. I don't know. That was probably it, or just the ease of managing multiple sites. I like I heard Pippin talk about this once. He was talking about he uses multi-site for all of his development because he was saying if my development, if my plugins, if I develop them on multi-site, then it's more likely that there's not going to be an issue when you go to single site. But if you develop them on single site only, there could be an issue with how your menu, mostly menus is what it's about. And that's one reason. But then also too, he was saying that he spins up, like you can spin up new sites just like that. Like you just type it in the box. You can spin out multiple sites, and so he was saying it was good for whenever you want to test stuff out, new settings, new whatever you're going to do. You have plugin options or whatever. You can just start spinning up sites and testing stuff out, and then closing those down. So it's a quick way to test out settings.
Especially as a developer, because our dev environments are dirty. Like, I mean, the settings in the data sets in them are just terrible. They're through multiple development versions of plugins. We could have a bad setting somewhere, but we fixed it later, but the data's still bad. So being able to quickly spin up a new site for us, and then quickly install our plugin, and then quickly have fresh data to work with, and know that, okay, well, it's just happening in my environment. Something's wrong with this installation, but it works outside. It's good to know.
So cool. Is that your favorite feature?
Yeah.
All right, any final questions? Okay, thank you guys. Awesome. Okay, well, before we wrap up, there's two other announcements that we forgot to mention during announcements. April, you have one? I found the service that I was talking about. It's called Scope Schedule, and it is $10 a month.
which is super economical for those that want to do like editorial calendar plus social media auto posting from my blog, bam on one swoop, coschedule.com. Awesome.
Okay. So one other thing, I guess WP Tavern did a blog post about, or an article about the fact that tomorrow is Review and Rate Plugins Day. So they are trying to. Oh, hi. I am really close to it. It's an international holiday. Yeah, no, I just happened to see it while browsing, and
so you all have to get out for
trying
work.
to.
So
Yeah.
For
For WordPress agencies. Yeah, I'm just gonna sit at home and rate plugins
all day. Awesome.
So I approve. One last announcement. Bonnie has been officially approved as our WordPress lead for.
Right, we talked about it.
Yes,
But she can speak more to that.
She needs help, so
Yes.
contact her if you want to know about with organizing this year.
Yes.
Any idea?
We have no idea on dates yet.
Who? Who's Mendel?
Oh, no, you should probably not. You should definitely send me along information so we can get that.
Yeah. So how do we get in touch with Bonnie? Mara said there's a set up.
Well, no, she didn't set up a Facebook.
Oh,
She just posted
there
in
is
the
a
WordPress.
Oh, that's
So
it.
she
In the
posted
WordPress.
Phoenix, and then let me give you the personal email.
Okay, you want to announce it to the internet.
Just
there you go.
Just it's just her email.
Yeah.
So it's CEO@chiefeverythingofficer.com.
Chiefeverythingofficer.com.
So that's
Okay.
Bonnie's email address, so you can get hold of her.
All right.
CEO @chiefeverythingofficer.
CEO?
Yeah.
CEO.
Okay. All right. So we will be having a WordCamp next year. Yay!
Yay! And it might be, just so you know, it might be early 2016. We might be taking a year off, but we're hoping that we get organizers involved quickly so we can get a fall session going.
Awesome. Okay, thank you everybody for coming. If you're interested in having a drink or a snack, we usually have. So yeah. I told my daughter about that, by the way, and she was like, "You can do that?" And if you're wondering, you can order nachos, but sub tater tots.
Wait, what?
For the chips.
This is genius.
Yeah, exactly.
You're welcome.
That's what these WordPress meetups are for.
So Kay O'Donnell's is right down the street. If you go out of the parking lot the back way and go follow Northside around and cross Raintree, it'll be on your left. You can shut it down. Good night.